And it works. Gracias. We are live, and I am presenting with celebration in the sacred space of Aloha Nidao Living Conversations, or I Need Living Conversations, the 100th session, the 100th live session we've had here, which is a lot to say, it's a lot to share, it's a whole lot of work, a whole lot of commitment that is shown, and we are thankful for Sacred Blue Heron Woman who has made it possible. And here she is with you talking about the 13 meridians, the second session of the 13 meridians, which are kind of the lines of ancestral Chinese medicine and wisdom. But then
they're the rivers of energy that flow through our system.
Wow, rivers of energy. There you go. There you have it. So that's amazing, and it's a beautiful journey, and we're here to continue that journey. So I want to welcome everyone and introduce me as well, Julian Catari from Jalapa, Veracruz. And I think I'm done with introductions.
So week 100, this means in 4 weeks we'll be at exactly 2 years that we've been doing this weekly.
In 4 weeks, okay, 104.
Yeah.
Conversations then.
Yeah.
Needed for 4 years without much interruption.
Yeah. So we're going to pick up where we left off last week. We ended with the stomach. Now we move into the spleen, which is the stomach's partner. So the spleen meridian starts at the big toe, where it travels up along the inside of the foot, up the inside of the leg, and up the middle, kind of up the middle of the belly, a little over to the side at the rib cage. It shifts over into the armpit and it ends in the armpit. So it's Jingjin, which would be the tendon bed, that the river bed that lays below the stream. It follows the meridian and it covers a huge part of the chest. So the acupoints on this, spleen 1 is called the hidden white or the ghost eye. It is a welging at the wood point, and it's the third of the 13 ghost points. And this is the first point also on the earth channel. Earth engenders metal, and so the beginnings of metal exist subtly in the earth, because white is the color associated with metal, and metal is subtly hidden in the earth, hence the name. So it's found on the inner toe, the inner side of the big toe at the corner of the nail. Spleen 2 is the great metropolis, and this one is a spring ying, or a fire point. The Chinese word for this point was a name for a large or important municipal district. So, reflecting this point's significance, it's found on the inner side of the big toe on the border of red and white flesh, yin and yang flesh, in the depression behind the base joint. Spleen 3 is called the supreme white, and this one is a stream shoe, an earth point, and the source point also. So the flesh at this point is especially white, it's yin. And also the planet Venus is called by the same Chinese name, and sometimes Venus is in the western sky when she's a night star. So the direction of metal and color white is the west. So this correlates with Venus according to the Chinese. As the earth point of the spleen channel, spleen 3 can fortify earth to engender metal. There is also a mountain in China with the same name of this point, so it's a reminder of that the point is located next to the mountain of the ball of the foot. There's another name for this. Most commonly, it's called the wellspring point. It is right in the ball of your foot, and it's one of the most important points ever to activate. It's right there at the ball, right in between.
I have a question. Does this point is this point or are other points used by different meridians, like the same point?
Not this one. No.
Okay.
No, this is all earth spleen.
Okay.
But yeah, it's called a bubbling spring or wellspring point. It's also a longevity point. So you want to activate that. You want to, when you do jump roping, you're activating that point.
Okay.
Which is coming for me in my training at the end of next week. I've got to start jump roping.
Cool.
So spleen 4 is called the yellow emperor. It's a connecting point. This one is used, so it connects the stomach channel with the 8 extraordinary channels. So the Chinese divide their history into epochs, each with 5 phases. During the Earth phase from 2697 to 2597 BC, China was ruled by the Yellow Emperor. And yellow is the color of Earth. So spleen 4 is the connection point between the 2 Earth organs, the spleen and the stomach. So it is as important to the Earth phase in the body as the Yellow Emperor was to the Earth phase of history. It's 1 inch behind the base of the great toe, so just below the spleen 3.
Mm-hmm.
Spleen 5 is called Shang Hill, and Shang is one of the 5 sounds of the musical scale, the Chinese musical scale. It's also associated with metal, and it also means market. It's a river jing, a metal point. The hill refers to the bone that bulges out beside the hollow in which this point lies. As it's the metal point on the spleen earth channel, the name implies a high point of earth where the ore that makes metal is mined. So it's found in the slight depression under the inside of the ankle bone. So the ankle bone is the mound, is the hill. Spleen 6 is called 3 yin intersection, or great yin, or life support. It's the point of intersection of the 3 leg yin channels, which would be liver, spleen, and kidney. So this point is used by all 3. And so the name. It's found in the depression beneath the bone, 3 inches above the tip of the inner ankle bone. And spleen 7 is called licking valley. The Chinese character for this word means valley, and it's also a homophone, which means grain. So if spleen qi is not properly flowing, the grain essence can drain, can leak out, resulting in fatigue and emaciation. So the name, Leaking Valley. It's located in the longitudinal gully formed by the calf muscle that resembles a valley. So it's on the back, on the calf, right where that calf muscle splits.
Mm-hmm.
Spleen 8 is called Earth's crux, or spleen abode, or earth winnower. As the ode to elucidate mystery says, man consists of top, middle, and bottom. The major points for the 3 areas are spleen 21, stomach 25, the celestial pivot, and this one. This is the lower, this is the bottom. So to the Chinese, it's obvious that top, middle, and bottom are parallel with the concepts of heaven, man, and earth. So this point is located in the depression by the bone about 5 inches above Leaking Valley, and is found with the legs stretched straight out. And I think, I'm not sure, I'll have to look this up. I'm not sure if it comes to the inside of the leg or if it stays on the back side of the leg, because the spleen channel runs up the inside of the leg. So some of these descriptions are confusing. Spleen 9 is called the yin mound spring, and it's a uniting water point. So in the landscape of the body, the knee can be said to resemble a mound or a hill, as well as a calf's knee or a calf's nose. Since this point is located near the knee and it's the water point of the spleen channel, it can be thought of a spring beside a mound. It's right below the knee, yet above Earth's crux at the depression at the end of the crease when the knee is flexed. So when you flex your knee on the inside of the leg, that's where that point is. So that tells me that as spleen 8, the Earth's crux is on the inside of the leg, not on the back side. So spleen 10 is called the Sea of Blood, or the 100 worm burrow. It's called this because it's used for menstrual imbalances and other blood imbalances. It's 2.5 inches above the kneecap on the border of the white flesh, the inner side of the leg. So the yin, the white flesh is always yin. Spleen 11 is called the winnower gate, and the pictograph, the Chinese character for this, translates as a winnowing basket. The classical term, Chinese term for squatting with the legs spread open, exposing the anterior thighs, the inner thighs, is called winnow sit. So the point is located at this position, kind of halfway up the thighs. In between the two sinews, the two major muscles of the inner thigh. So spleen 12 is called surging gate or palace of charity. The character, Chinese character for this, may refer to the surging nature of the pulse at this point. It's an intersection point of the spleen and liver channels. So it's a major thoroughfare in the qi network. It's at the pulsating or the femoral pulse in the crease of the thigh. Spleen 13 is called bowel abode. The character meaning residence was used metaphorically in ancient books to represent the bowels. So it's 1 inch above the surging gate, spleen 12, and 4.5 inches from the midline of the abdomen. Spleen 14 is the abdominal bind or abdominal hole. The name refers to this point's effectiveness in relieving constipation and stagnation in the abdomen that can present as pain or just a hernia. It's above the bowel abode, so to another finger width above we're going. So that's the spleen channel, comes up mid-crease where you would find the femoral pulse in the middle of the thigh. That's where the spleen channel comes up. Spleen 15 is called great horizontal or human's horizontal. The characters for this refer to the large intestines which lie below this point. It could also be a reference to the large horizontal crease on which this point is located. Again, it's 4.5 inches from the midline and just moving up that line of the belly. Spleen 16 is called abdominal lament or intestinal bend. A distressed abdomen makes a sound that resembles wailing or lamenting, so that's the reason for the name. This point eases the wailing. It's above spleen 15, 4.5 inches from the midline. Spleen 17 is called food hole or life pass. So the spleen's function of ruling digestion and providing the body with nourishment is reflected by a Chinese character meaning food. So we can visualize the essence of grain rising to the lung and passing through the diaphragm at this point, the food hole. The name can also be taken as a reference to the nipple, meaning this point is near the nipple. So now we're on the chest, on the rib cage, but we're veered over, so it's to the side of the nipple actually. Spleen 18 is called a celestial ravine. This area is above the diaphragm, which is often referred to as heaven. The pictograph for Chinese character refers to the cleft formed by the ribs and sinews that contain this point, and it's about 9 inches below the armpit. Spleen 19 is called chest village. Conjuring the image of a village reflects the relative unimportance of this point, a backcountry village. It's 1 inch, it's 1 inch above the celestial ravine. And spleen 20 is called all around flourishing. The spleen manages the blood and disperses essence, so it nourishes the body. The lungs distribute this nourishment in the form of qi and fluids. So spleen 20 is located 1 inch below lung 1. And it works with both channels and organs. And this point is best found lying down. It's in the armpit. And spleen 21 is called great embracement or great bladder. This connecting point resides over yin and yang via the spleen irrigates the 5 viscera, the 5 organs. It's found 6 inches below the armpit. So when in the emotional freedom technique, the tapping, we're getting spleen, probably both 21 and 20, depending on how many fingers you tap with.
Okay.
So meridian 5, the heart meridian, originates internally within the physical organ of the heart. From here, it moves internally to the armpit, where it emerges on the exterior of the body to run down the arm and off the top of the little finger. So it goes through the inner armpit and goes down the outside of the arm and off the little finger. Internally, a branch descends to run through the diaphragm into the small intestines, which are paired elementally with the heart. A second internal branch ascends through the throat to connect with the eyes, which are also linked elementally with the heart. It governs the pulse and blood as well as the mind and spirit. And its tendon pathway goes up the inside of the arm from the little finger and covers a fair area of the chest all the way to the sternum. So heart 1 is called the highest spring. The chi of the heart channel issues at this point and flows down the channel to the hand. This is analogous to water bubbling forth from a spring and flowing toward the sea. The heart is the most sovereign organ because of its crucial role in the body, therefore the epithet, the highest or most venerable or the most respected. It's amid the sinews of the armpit on the inner side of the arm where the pulsating vessels enter the chest. So it's right up in here. Heart 2 is called spirit, and the epithet spirit is a reference to the heart's function of storing the spirit. The character is the Chinese character used for the word spirit is also commonly used to represent the colors green and blue or cyan. It may refer to green as the color associated with wood, the plant life, which engenders fire, or as the color of life, exemplified by the sprouting of green leaves in the spring. And the heart rules life and death. It's 3 inches above the elbow. It's on the inner side of the arm, right in there. Heart 3 is called the lesser sea or the bending point, and this is a uniting water point, uniting the heart with water. And where waters unite is the sea. The quality of the chi is described as a river uniting with the sea. It's on the inner side of the elbow, behind the joint, off the big bone when the point is flexed, when the arm is flexed toward the head. So it's right in there. Heart 4 is the spirit pathway. This is the Jing River metal point of the heart channel. Why? So if you've noticed, every channel so far has one acupoint for each of the elements or the 5 phases. So if you're working with the elements, with the 5 phases of nature, the 5 cycles, the 5 seasons of nature, then you would stimulate these points, these specific points at each, like all of the metal, the river Jing points would get stimulated during the fall.
Okay. Wow.
So, okay, spirit pathway. The chi at this river Jing point moves as a mighty river moves along its path, and it's about 4 inches behind the palm. And that confuses me. Is it behind the palm on the, maybe down the outside of the arm? I need to see a map of these points. Heart 5 is called connecting grain. It connects the heart channel to the small intestine channel. The reference to grain is from the character, the Chinese character, that implies a streak or a vein like grain in wood. It's in the depression 1 inch behind the palm. And heart 6 is called the stone palace. This is the cleft point of the heart channel. It's in the vessel behind the palm up from the wrist. And heart 7 is called spirit gate or protuberant bone or central metropolis. This is a stream, shu, an earth point, and it's also a source point for the heart channel. It's behind the palm, in the depression at the end of the protuberant bone, which would be the ulna, which would be this side, the outside. The radius is where you take the radial pulse, right? So the ulna is that.
Okay.
Heart 8 is a lesser mansion or protuberant bone. It's a spring yin or fire point of the heart channel. So historically, the Chinese words for this name was the title of the official that is equivalent now to the Secretary of Agriculture. So the point name may refer to the heart's responsibility for storing the spirit, just as the Secretary of Agriculture stores grain and was in charge of distributing the grain and the produce among the people in much the same way that the heart commands the blood and distributes nourishment. So it's behind the base joint of the little finger in the gap between the points. So I'm going to guess it's right there.
Mhm.
Part 9 is called the lesser surge or channel start. It's a welging, a wood point. It's the point where the heart channel surges forth, and it's the last point on the heart channel because from here, chi travels to the small intestine channel. So it's on the inner side of the little finger at the corner of the nail. Now they designate it also as one Chinese leak width from the corner of the nail. I have no clue how big a Chinese leak is. Can't be very big. So now we move into the small intestine meridian, which originates on the little finger close to the finish point of the heart meridian. It comes up the outside wrist bone and follows the arm up to the shoulder blade and across the top of the shoulder blade, up the throat, across the face to the cheek and the ear. Internally, a branch descends through the heart to the small intestine, and it separates pure from impure, including food, fluids, thoughts, and beliefs. Its tendon pathway, a fascial pathway, starts at the little finger, goes up the back side of the arm, onto the shoulder blade and up to the ear. So small intestine one is called the lesser marsh. It's a welging, a metal point of the small intestine channel. The character for the word marsh refers to a low place where water collects. So it's located in a small depression on the outside of the little finger, not far from the nail. Now, if you can find the depression on the outside of your little finger, you're doing good. This point is related to the heart channel because it's the first point after the heart channel on the chi cycle. The marsh is also a reference to the moistening nature of the point. So spleen 2 is called front valley. This is the spring ying or water point of this channel. And the Chinese character refers to the depression in which this point is located. It's in the outer side of the little finger in the depression in front of the base joint. So I'm guessing it would be here.
Mm-hmm.
Small intestine 3 is called the black ravine. This is a stream shoe or the wood point of this channel. It's called black ravine in reference to its location in a narrow depression proximal to the metacarpophalangeal joint. Let's try to say that 5 times fast. The character, Chinese character, refers not only to the depression in which the point is located, but also to the quality of the chi at this point. The chi at the stream shoe points is said to flow rapidly like a stream flowing through a ravine. It's on the outer side of the little finger in the depression behind the base joint, and it's located by making a fist. So it's like right there.
Mm-hmm.
Small intestine 4 is called the wrist bone. It's a source point, and it's on the outer side of the hand in a depression by the prominent bone in front of the wrist. So, not sure how they're classing front and back. Sling 5, small intestine 5 is called Yang Valley. This is the river, the fire point of this channel. It's located in a hollow that is less deep than a ravine and less wide than a pool, so it's a valley. It's at the wrist and the depression at the protuberant bone, the ulna. So there's quite a few between the heart and spleen channel. There's quite a few points located right in here. So anywhere you kind of palpate or in here, you're going to get an acupoint. Small intestine 6 is called nursing the aged. It's the cleft point of the small intestines intestine channel. And it's called this because in one's later years, the rest joints are often afflicted with stiffness and pain, and this point can relieve that. So the name, so that's the reason for the name. It's in a hole on the protuberant bone of the wrist in a depression 1 inch behind the wrist. So you have the protuberant bone right here. It would be about 1 inch behind that. So probably right in there. Small intestine 7 is called the branch to the correct. This point connects the small intestine to the heart channel. And because the heart is the ruling organ, is called the correct. It's 5 inches above the wrist.
Okay.
Small intestine 8 is called the small c. It's a uniting point of this birth point of this channel where the chi flows deep and enters the small intestines, much like a river flowing into the sea. It's directly opposite the lesser c, which would be heart. So heart 3 was right here. Small intestine 5 would be right out here, on directly opposite. It's on they're both uniting points. It's on the outer side of the elbow, on the outer side of the big bone in the depression, 5 fingers up from the elbow, and it's found by flexing the arm towards the head. So out here, 5 fingers up. Small intestine 9 is called the true shoulder. It's located right on the shoulder, and it's an important point in the region. It's between the 2 bones below the curve of the shoulder blade. Small intestine 10 is called the upper arm shoe. This is a major point for shoulder and arm imbalances. It's in the depression above the shoulder blade, found when the arm is raised. I think probably right about in here. Small intestine 11 is called celestial gathering. It's closely tied to the heart because the small intestine and the heart have an internal and external relationship. The heavens are supreme, and the heart is called the sovereign viscus. Since both are charged with the function of ruling, heaven is charged with ruling and the heart is charged with ruling. The point name is celestial. It's in the depression of the shoulder blade. Don't ask me where the depression of the shoulder blade is. I have to see this on a map. Small intestine 12 is called grasping the wind. There's a deep depression found at this point when the arm is raised. And this is where the Chinese say an invasion of external wind can get caught in this depression and cause shoulder disorders. It's on the shoulder behind the small protuberance of the shoulder blade. I could, with as many pigs as I put in the freezer, I could probably find it easier on a pig than I could on myself. Small intestine 13 is called the crooked wall. The name is in reference to the point's location above the curved wall of the scapula or shoulder blade. It's in the center of the shoulder in the depression in the bend of the blade, and that just makes no sense to me. The point always hurts when pressed. There's never going to be a time when it doesn't, just because of its location. Small intestine 14 is called the outer shoulder shoe. It's located on the outer shoulder in a depression 3 inches from the spine. I should say inner shoulder because it's inner. It's 3 inches from the spine. Small intestine 15 is the central shoulder shoe. This point is named for its location in the middle of the shoulder. It's on the inner side of the shoulder blade 2 inches from the spine. Small intestine 16 is called celestial window or lofty window or window dragon. By celestial, we know it's on the upper body. And just as a window allows movement of air, this point can move chi. It's in the cleft behind the major sinew of the neck, below the corner of the jaw, and the depression where the pulsating vessel can be felt. And small intestine 17 is called celestial countenance. Again, celestial because it's its upper body and it's just below the head. From here, the chi flows up to the face. It's below the ear, behind the corner of the jaw, so it's right in there. Small intestine 18 is called the cheekbone hole. It's in a crevice just below the cheekbone. And small intestine 19 is called the auditory palace. It's located right in front of the ear, and it's important in relieving ear imbalances. So the bladder meridian. Now we're into the water.
What number is it?
It's number 7.
Okay.
These have been short ones. We're going to get into a long one, which is the kidney meridian. It has 67 points on it. We won't cover all 67 points tonight. Okay. The bladder meridian originates at the inner eye, right there by the nose. It ascends the face over the skull and down the back of the head, dividing the occiput to travel down either side of the spine. These two branches reconnect on the legs where they travel down the calf and along the outer aspect of the foot to end at the little toe. An internal branch connects the bladder meridian into the physical organ of the brain. It's in charge of storing and eliminating fluid waste. It receives chi from the kidney meridian and uses it to transform fluids for eliminating. So it carries the elemental energy of water. Its tendon is fascial riverbed underneath, originates at the big toe, runs along the foot to the ankle bone, and runs up to the groin where it ends. So bladder 1 is called bright eyes, bright essence, or tear hole. It's used for eye imbalances, and when stimulated, it can improve the eyesight. The point name brings to mind both the function and the location of the joint, or the point. The character, which is Ming, represents the eyes because it's composed of the sun and moon, and the sun and moon are the eyes of heaven and earth. It's said that when the 5 viscera flourish, the eyes shine like the sun and moon. And it is right at the inner campus, right in here on either side. Stimulating this point, I need to start doing that. See if I can renew my 20/20 eyesight.
Okay.
Bladder 2 is called bamboo gathering. It's at the root of the eyebrow, or root of the eyebrow, and it's also called man present. When bamboo is gathered and put in bunches, it can be seen to resemble a large eyebrow. I'm having a hard time picturing that. Of course, I've never seen bamboo harvested and gathered. Because it's located at the inner extreme of the eyebrow, its position is analogous to the hand that gathers bamboo. So it would be right here, right where the eyebrows start. Mm-hmm. Bladder 3 is called eyebrow ascension. This ideograph or Chinese character means to rise up. So the point is located directly above the eyebrow, but half an inch into the hairline. So we just jump from here all the way over to here. Bladder 4 is called deviating turn or nose flush because stimulating this point can flush your nose. The point name is a reference to its location being askew from the straight alignment of the points. Nose flush means it can flush the nose, and it's above the eyebrow ascension point in the hairline. So we're just going back and up. Bladder 5 is called 5th place. Exactly what it means. It's 5 fingers back from the deviating turn. And bladder 6 is called light guard. The Chinese character for guard can mean to take on responsibility for a task, and the character for light means light, exactly, and may be taken as a representation of eyesight. So it protects the eyesight. It's behind the 5th place on top of the head. So now we're up on top. We came back along the back, and now we're on top of the head. Bladder 7 is called celestial connection or old as the heavens. The character can be considered as a reference to the vertex of the head. So it's right up here, and it's behind the light guard. Bladder 8 is called declining connection. And now the path of the bladder channel begins its steep decline after crossing the vertex of the head and passing through bladder 8. So it's right back here, just going right down the backside of the head. Bladder 9 is called the jade pillow. The occipital bone, right back here, is translated directly as the pillow bone, because that's what you put on your pillow when you sleep, right? The word jade was added to maybe emphasize the bone's importance. So this point is 1 inch below bladder 8 on the occipital protuberance. So we're going down the backside of the head. Bladder 10 is called the celestial pillar. So there's 2 muscles at the nape of the neck, where would be the trapezius muscle that appears like 2 pillars supporting the head or heaven. So the point derives its name from its location on these pillars. And the word for pillar can also be interpreted as alluding to the cervical vertebrae, because in ancient times, the vertebrae were called the celestial pillar bones. It's at the hairline on either side of the nape in the depression on the outer face of the major sinew. So it's, I think, about midline. And those 2 points are always sore. If you've got any kind of tension, those 2 points are always sore. Bladder 11 is called a great shuttle. In ancient China, the spinal vertebrae were referred to as shuttle bones because they referred to a shuttle weaving in and out of a loom, out of a pattern formed by the rib cage. So the first vertebra, being the most prominent, is labeled with the epithet great. So this point is in the depression on the nape of the neck, 1 inch on either side of the spine below the first vertebrae. And it's best found in a straight sitting position. It's the bladder. It's the bladder channel that has 67 points. We haven't, so we're going to be done here soon because
okay.
Because the bladder channel comes straight down pretty much along the side of the spine, and each vertebrae is a point. So I've been taught to do a spinal flush, which feels absolutely amazing. And what that gets is that flushes each one of these spinal points that are these bladder points that are related to an organ. And I never knew that till I did this. So bladder 20 or bladder 12 is called the wind gate or heat mansion. And again, it is said that wind pathogens can enter here. It's 1 inch on either side of the spine below the second vertebrae. So it's high up in the neck here, right? Bladder 13 is called the lung shoe. And this is where we're just going to flip through these points like this. From 13 to 30 is going to be gone in the next 5 minutes. On the bladder channel, each of the 13 organs has an associated or shoe point. They are generally located at the level of the organ they're associated with. And since the lungs are the highest organ in the body, this shoe point is the first of this series of points. Again, all these points are 1 inch on either side of the spine. So this one is just below the third vertebrae. Bladder 14 is the Ju Yin Shu gate or tower shoe. It's associated with the pericardium of the heart. It's below the fourth vertebrae. Bladder 15 is called the heart shoe, the heart, below the fifth vertebrae, found best in the straight sitting posture. Bladder 16 is called the governing shoe. Well, there's not only the organs, there's other anatomical entities that have associated points as well. So the governing channel is one of the 8 extraordinary meridians that this stimulates, and it's found below the 6th vertebrae. The diaphragm shoe, this is the meeting point of the blood, and it's below the 7th vertebrae. Bladder 18 is the liver shoe, it's below the 9th. Bladder 19 is the gallbladder shoe, it's below the 10th vertebrae. Bladder 20 is the spleen shoe, it's below the 11th. Bladder 21 is the stomach shoe, it's below the 12th vertebrae. Bladder 22 is the triple burner shoe, it's below the 13th vertebrae, and we'll get to the triple burner meridian next week. Bladder 23 is the kidney shoe, it's below the 14th vertebrae. Bladder 24 is called the Sea of Chi shoe. There's another acupoint labeled the Sea of Qi, which is on the front of this body. And so this point, bladder 24, is directly opposite that other Sea of Qi point. And it's below the 15th vertebrae. Bladder 25 is the large intestine shu, and it's below the 16th vertebrae. Bladder 26 is called the origin pass shu, again related to a point on the front of the body directly opposite, and it's below the 17th vertebrae. Bladder 27 is called the small intestine shu, is below the 18th. Bladder 28 is the bladder shu, below the 19th. Bladder 29 is a central backbone shu. It derives its name from its location at the center of the body among muscles that run parallel to the spine, and it's below the 20th vertebrae. Bladder 30 is between lumbar 4 and lumbar 5 vertebrae, one of the most important points you could ever imagine. It's called the white ring shu, or the jade ring shu, or the Mingmen. White ring in Taoist metaphysics refers to the area of the body where essence is stored. The heart is above, the kidneys are below, the spleen is to the left, the liver is to the right, the life store, or genitals, the Chinese call the genitals life store, are to the front, and the secret door, the anus, is to the rear. So it connects like a ring. White silk, a ring of white silk, 1 inch in diameter. It wraps the body's essence and is called the jade ring. This area is directly behind the navel and is the root of man's lifeline. It is below the 21st vertebrae, which is lumbar 4, between lumbar 4 and 5. And this is where they put the needle to do spinal taps, to do spinal anesthesia, to do epidurals. So if your bladder 30, if your life essence there is not good and they put a needle in there, you're going to die. No matter how healthy you are, you're going to die. Wow. Yes. This is one of the most important acupoints in the body, and they access it with needles all the time and have no clue what they're doing.
Wow. That's so crazy.
Yeah.
It's like cave. It's like futuristic cave or retarded medicine.
Yeah.
Like so
yeah, the radius, we'll get there too. Where you take the radial pulse at the wrist, that's another important point. And that's another point where if you're not doing well and they stick a needle in there, which we do to do arterial blood gases, you're going to die. It's just, right? So, yeah.
Oh, wow. You've had a experience with that. You've done that, right?
Yeah. Oh, I never knew it, but yeah, I've watched people die while they're having an arterial blood gas drawn. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Same goes for bladder 30, this Mingmen or white ring shu or jade ring shu point. One of the most important points in the body between L4 and L5.
No.
Which is the 21st vertebrae, which is a number on the golden spiral.
Now I understand why they are so important.
Yeah, it's really incredible. So that's where we're going to end. There's 37 more points of the bladder channel. We'll go into those next week. So then after the bladder channel comes the kidney meridian, then the pericardium, and then the triple burner, the gallbladder, and the liver. And the last one is the pancreas meridian. And I have no information on that because there is no information on that. Spirit the old ones have to bring me that information. But it's come to mind that we have to have a pancreas. The pancreas is not included anywhere in the Chinese medicine, in any of these meridians, and it's the source of, hummingbird drinking of the nectar of life. It governs the sweetness of life. So if we don't, it's no wonder there's so much diabetes, because we're not paying any attention to the pancreas.
Right.
So anyway.
Wow, That's an exciting thing to hear that that you're going to listen and try to bring something about that in.
Yeah. No,
Trying to bring
it's
something.
for a year, for almost a year now. This has been sitting in me going, we need the 13th meridian. The Chinese didn't have it because they're superstitious of the number 13, which is so important on the golden spiral. It goes from 13 to 21. So that's where I was like, we need a 13th. We've got to get from the 12th to 13th. How do we get there? Oh my goodness, the pancreas is the only organ that's not represented.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And it's a large organ, right? It's not.
It's a fairly good sized organ, yeah.
Even the gallbladder, it's.
The gallbladder is tiny, but it's very small compared to the pancreas, and the gallbladder has its own meridian, and the pancreas has nothing. So, yeah.
Right. Well, it has it. It's just that they didn't map it out or something.
Well, yeah, you're right. It has the meridian. It's there. We just need to tap into the wisdom of where and how it flows.
Alrighty, so we're looking forward to that and to 2 more sessions in this journey of the meridians. I take the opportunity to try and activate some of them and listen, and then to discover these little bits of information, like one of the meridians. The most important ones are the same points that are used in medicine to do certain practices, and then what you shared with us that can result in some unwanted results.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and just to relate everything and to be able to speak about it from the Aini perspective and the freedom perspective, it's really amazing.
Yeah.
And so let's invite folks for the 101st session, and we'll be having it next week, the same time, same channels.
Yeah. Again, the heavenly channels. We're going to continue with the heavenly channel of the bladder.
Right. So with that being said, I will cut the live stream, but for that, I'm gonna run down because it's downstairs. So I'll just say goodbye for now, and see you soon.
Yep. Have a good evening.